Hello and welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan and you're watching India Today Global, our rebranded show every night at 10:30 p.m. Monday to Friday. We begin with the most anticipated meeting on the world stage between US President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. This time, Zelensky is not arriving alone. He's joined by top European Union leaders, hoping to bring collective pressure and unity to the talks. Their presence also highlights how high the stakes are, especially after the ugly fallout during Zelensky's last visit to the White House. In fact, the leaders have started arriving. You can see Macron, Melanie, Mark Rutte is already there. The German Chancellor, Merz, also joining in, President of Finland. So a whole lot of European leadership, von der Leyen, greeting Zelensky there. A whole lot of European leaders will be there beside President Zelensky when he enters the Oval Office yet again. Now, in a post on his social media platform, Donald Trump said, and I quote, "A big day at the White House. We have never had so many European leaders here at one time. A great honor for America. Let's see what the results will be." The meeting comes in the wake of Trump's summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska, where Trump notably softened his position, dropping the demand for an immediate ceasefire and seeming to lean toward Moscow's narrative. That dramatic shift has left Zelensky and European leaders with fewer options and sparked serious concern among Ukraine's allies. Many fear the US could now push for a peace deal on Russia's terms.
All eyes are on Washington. As President Volodymyr Zelensky is meeting Donald Trump in Washington, this is the toughest talks of his presidency. Here is the dilemma Zelensky is going to face. Is Donald Trump's wrath or accept a quick peace deal that might end Russia's war, but at the catastrophic price of giving up land for vague security guarantees? Guarantees fear that it could collapse in just a few years, letting Moscow come back even stronger. The bind comes after Trump's dramatic summit with Vladimir Putin in Alaska. There, the US president quietly dropped his earlier demand for an immediate ceasefire before negotiations, a move that looked like he's siding with Moscow's line. That shift leaves Zelensky with little room to maneuver, and the memory of his last White House visit hangs heavy. A bitter clash with Trump in February that even led to a pause in US military aid.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly what
this.
you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
Feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very
You
strong.
will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position.
This time, Zelensky won't walk in alone. Zelensky is accompanied by a group of European leaders, which includes NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte and Finland's President Alexander Stubb, both of whom Trump actually gets along with personally. Still, Europe's leverage is questionable, and allies haven't always agreed on strategy. For Zelensky, the objectives are clear. Find out exactly what Putin is demanding, pushing Trump towards a trilateral meeting with Moscow, and press for tougher sanctions against Russia. After Alaska, Trump signaled that he'll urge Zelensky to move fast on a peace plan. And Trump sounded open to Russia's harshest demands, including Ukraine giving up huge chunks of territory in the east, land Moscow's forces have been trying to seize since 2014. Zelensky earlier spoke in Brussels alongside European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen.
Putin has many demands, but we do not know all of them. And if there are really as many as we heard, then it will take time to go through them all. It's impossible to do this under the pressure of weapons. So it's necessary to cease fire and work quickly on a final deal.
Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, even floated the idea that Washington and others could give Ukraine an Article 5-style guarantee, the kind NATO members enjoy. That would mean an attack on Ukraine and would be treated like an attack on all. Trump, meanwhile, is under his own pressure. He promised he did end the war within months of taking office. But after Alaska, he had to admit it's Putin who isn't ready to stop fighting. In fact, Russia has escalated, with June and July the deadliest months for civilians in more than 3 years. Before meeting Putin, Trump threatened crippling sanctions on Moscow and its oil buyers if a ceasefire did not happen. After the summit, complete with a red carpet welcome and even a shared limo ride with Putin, he dropped these threats, instead pitching a so-called land swap. Zelensky immediately rejected it, saying Ukraine won't trade land for peace. He insists only direct talks with Russia, with US involvement, can settle territorial questions. Trump has openly said he believes Russia can take the whole of Ukraine. Yet after 4 years of war and more than 1 million casualties, Moscow controls less than a fifth of the country. European leaders, meanwhile, worry that bending now will only embolden Putin to go further.
It's important that America agrees to work with Europe to provide security guarantees for Ukraine, and we are very thankful to the United States and to the President for such signal.
So as the meeting is underway in Washington, will Trump force Kyiv into a rushed deal that cements Russia's gains? Or can Ukraine and its ally rest real, lasting guarantees from Washington? With Shaurik Saha, India Today Global.
And joining me to discuss this and more, I'm being joined by Michael Busacchio, who is Global Affairs Analyst and Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council. Also joining me is our colleague Rohit Sharma from Washington, D.C. He'll be joining us in just a bit. Michael, if I could begin with you. European leaders and Zelensky, all of them in that one room, the Oval Office, a stark reminder of what it meant to Zelensky the first time around he met with Trump in that office. But is it going to be any different this time around?
Hi, Gito. It's great to be with you. Well, I think we should separate the spectacle from reality. Yes, it's great for Ukrainian President Zelensky, such a show of support from European leaders. But look, at the same time, we're also talking about pretty much the same European leaders who dragged their feet to provide Ukraine with the support that it asked for at the start of the war to push Russia back. It's also taken up till now for the EU to provide 18 packages of sanctions to tighten the noose around Mr. Putin. And let's not forget as well that there's still 200 and almost 300 billion euros of frozen Russian assets sitting in European banks, and European leaders nervous to give that to Ukraine to continue the war. The bottom line here, I think, for Europe is that if Mr. Putin is not pushed back, one of their countries could be a target in the very near future. One more point, if I may. Lots of talk, of course, as your excellent correspondent laid out, that about security guarantees. And I think at the moment, all things considered, the United States security guarantees mean very, very little unless the U.S. is the main backer. That's just the reality of the current situation. So it's difficult to see what may come out of today, especially when it seems when Mr. Putin was in Alaska, he drank some kind of spiked Russian Kool-Aid where he's espousing the Russian narrative of giving up land.
But that certainly is what supposedly, Michael, is going to be on the table. Tell us what it would mean to give up land. We're not talking about a land swap over here because there is no swap to happen. The specific demand or ask is to give up the Donbas region, and particularly a strategic port such as Crimea, the only warm water port that Russia or Ukraine, for that matter, could really have. Ukraine does have Mariupol as well, but a very critical space for Russia. Will Zelensky agree to this, and should he agree, would this not be a complete political suicide for him?
It would absolutely be a political suicide for him. No Ukrainian president could agree to such a big deal and go home and expect to be greeted with warm embraces from his people. I think it could cause another Maidan protest. And by the way, as you well know, Gita, Mr. Zelensky is hemmed in by the Ukrainian constitution. He doesn't have the authority to give away land. As far as we understand, because things are still a bit murky right now, the area of land that the Russians want to be given over to them represents almost 250,000 of Ukrainian civilians. As you know, I've been in Ukraine since the start of the war. I've talked to Ukrainians
That's
in all
right.
regions of the country. They compare coming under Russian occupation as hell on earth, No way that's going to happen. So the other thing we have to mention here is that Mr. Zelensky is on a little bit more political shaky ground than he was during that first Oval Office meeting, the disastrous one. You'll recall a few weeks ago, he tried to decapitate the anti-corruption bodies. That sparked protests for the first time, massive protests in Ukraine. It's caused cracks in the political alliance. And then finally, I should mention to you, because I've just come out of Ukraine, is that I'm sensing a lot more weariness about this war. People want it to stop. All the blood that has been spilled, the wobbly economy, and the nightly attacks, including last night on World Port Odessa, which helps feed the world.
Right. Michael, stay on with us. The news that we reported on through today is that Russia has launched one of its largest combined drone and missile attacks in recent weeks. Overnight, Russian forces fired 4 Iskander-M ballistic missiles and launched approximately 140 attack drones, including Shaheeds and drone decoys from multiple locations in Russia and occupied Crimea. Ukrainian defense forces, supported by Air Force units, anti-aircraft missile systems, mobile fire groups, and electronic warfare teams, responded quickly, managing to shoot down or disable 88 of the incoming drones. Russian strikes were reported in 25 locations across 6 regions: Donetsk, Kharkiv, Sumy, Dnipropetrovsk, Odessa, and Kyiv. One of the deadliest hits occurred in Kharkiv's industrial district, where a drone strike ignited a massive fire in a residential building. At least 5 people were killed. In the Sumy region, 4 drones targeted civilian infrastructure, sparking fires. Ukrainian officials say they remain vigilant as these attacks continue to target both military and civilian sites. Michael, again, coming back to you, we're looking at no halt in the firing that is going on, or the action that's going on in these regions, in these parts, even as the meeting between Putin and Trump took place, and a meeting between Zelensky and Trump is to take place in moments from now. Okay, these are live visuals coming in. That's Zelensky, who's just arrived at the White House, being received by Trump at the porch. Not so long ago, we had the very same visuals that we'd seen of the first meeting between Zelensky and President Trump. And this is yet again, the second meeting between the two presidents. His attire not exactly clear, but we do remember that there were harsh words that was spelled out by the U.S. president on his attire as well. We again will have to wait and see how this meeting turns out. But he, this time around, is flanked by very, very senior European leaders from very powerful countries. Again,